Hello, everyone, and welcome to Put Your Cards on the Table, the only podcast where we're going to mental misstep your turn one Soul Ring. I am back again with my good friend Isaac, the Graveyard
Hello.
Garçon. How's
Hello,
it
hello. It's a
going?
pleasure to be back.
As usual as it can be in 2 episodes.
Yeah, that's a pattern mathematically.
Yeah. So today, we have a lot more time this time. We got like a full hour, really as much time as we want, probably an hour, rather than our very limited 15 minutes last time. And, we kind of decided we wanted to expand on the, corporate side of things that we talked about. So we'll go ahead and continue starting with the new Middle Earth set.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to discuss about this set,
Mm-hmm.
both from I mean, I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan, so like this is, I mean, there are definitely parts of this where like it is so exciting to see one of my favorite intellectual properties become involved with another one of my favorite hobbies of all time. It's extremely exciting. Just found out the names of the commander decks that they're
Mm-hmm.
planning on making for this set as well. We've seen a very little bit of really exciting spoilers and stuff. There's tons of really cool stuff to be had here, but there's also a few points of non-typical marketing practices that they've
Yeah.
had for sets like this. It's a little bit more in line with like the more highly promoted and highly marketed like Eternal Masters and Modern Masters and Modern Horizons, sets like that, where it definitely comes at a little more of a premium. But then obviously there are some very high tier sort of collectability and marketability practices that they're putting into place that we really don't have a lot to compare to because they're sort of marketing practices that they haven't been using for a long time yet. So I think there's definitely a lot of interesting space to discuss there about, how it can affect customer goodwill and the longevity of the game and things like that.
For sure. And I want to this isn't on our nice little talking point sheet that we have all typed up, but just real quick, I want to touch on the fact that as a Universes Beyond product, it's kind of these have kind of caused a rift in the player base too. Like some people only want to see Magic on Magic cards. They don't want to see
Right.
Lord of the Rings or The Walking Dead. And I want to hear your thoughts about that real quick. Obviously, like as you said, you're a big fan of this IP. So
Right.
just like overall, not just
Right.
Lord of the Rings.
So here's what I will say. The first time that they did any type of these universes beyond sets or products was Secret Lair The Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
I very distinctly remember when they previewed that, and I remember being furious about it. I'm actually a huge Walking Dead fan. However, what I really at the time, I've kind of had some changes about it. I actually really like seeing a lot of the Universes Beyond stuff now, but at the time, I was extreme, as a lot of people are. My knee-jerk reaction was that I was extremely obstinate and extremely against seeing other universes, literally the concept of Universes Beyond, seeing other IPs represented in my fun little cardboard game. I've since kind of come around on it. However, it does come with a bit of a caveat in that it feels like in order to do it in a way that feels satisfying to me and that I think feels more satisfying to other players as well, is to not make the mistake that they did with The Walking Dead and then again with Stranger Things, where these were unique cards. These were one of a kind
Mm-hmm.
cards
That you
that,
couldn't get outside, like in a
right.
Magic style.
Exactly. Like if,
Yeah.
if we look at Rick Steadfast Leader
Still
from the Walking Dead
$60, by
set,
the way.
still
Still a
60
$60
bucks
card.
exactly, and one of the greatest human cards
Mm-hmm.
of all time, in every Legacy Humans deck I've ever looked at.
Mm-hmm.
It's a $60 card. It comes in a premium. Correct me if I'm wrong, we still haven't gotten any other versions of the Walking Dead cards, right?
No, no. In fact,
Yeah.
I don't think that we've heard news of that for almost a year. We were promised Magic versions of them
Right.
soon after the release because there was a big upcry about it, and nothing has been done for almost 3 years now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and even then, like they did already go back and print the Innistrad themed versions of the Stranger Things
Yeah,
cards.
and
So
they were great. Those were
yeah, I really liked
fantastic.
those a lot. I liked them more than the Stranger
I
Things
agree. I
ones.
wholeheartedly agree.
I do like Stranger Things. For me, I think that one was just more of a kind of an unfortunate result of I don't love seeing kids on the cards.
Mm-hmm.
I think I think like a cool Cathar is much cooler than like a kid with a skateboard.
Yeah.
Is kind of where it comes down to for me.
I also think a big part of it is that we either need magic versions like the Stranger Things did, or the IP needs to fit Magic the
Right.
Gathering. Like, I think the Warhammer ones overall were really, really, really good.
Well, and here's an interesting thing, because this is the next thing I was going to bring up about this. So the examples that we've had so far, these are all like limited, like unique printings, and these
Mhm.
are in like secret layers. Where they've done it again, which has been much more largely well received, we've had multiple Dungeons and Dragons sets,
Mhm.
and we've had the Warhammer 40K pre-constructed decks, where I think that is a much bigger strength. Is in effect, not literally with the 40K set, but quite literally with both of the D&D sets. These are full sets.
Yes,
These are full
yes.
sets of cards. They're not just here are some characters that we're sort of taking advantage of to create a more promotional product that we were able to eliminate to the third party from, so you can order it directly from us.
Mhm.
It still happens in the same way that we are used to Magic happening, as full sets released alongside other formats and stuff, or in the case of 40K, a little bit more isolated pre-constructed decks, but it's still like several hundred brand new cards. Another great example that they've done a couple of times now, the one I'm remembering the most of being the Godzilla promotional
Yes,
cards
those were
from Ikoria.
fantastic.
I absolutely loved those.
Yep.
Absolutely loved those, as did basically everyone else.
Like,
There's really no downside.
yeah, it's literally just a regular Magic card with a skin on it. If you don't want to play the
It's a
Godzilla
skin.
version, yeah, if you don't want to play the Godzilla version, you play
Then
the other
don't.
one, right?
Yeah,
With the Stranger Things cards, I don't think they have the subnames on the Magic ones.
they do not.
Okay, yeah, so like those could be, I think that's a problem with readability. Like that could be a big problem. I'm gonna play what's his name, the red green one, the Ulvenwald Hunter or whatever. And can I run the Stranger Things version of it in my commander deck? For new players, I could see that being a problem.
Yeah. I do agree that it is definitely, especially in the context of new players, that is a bit of a hurdle to have to
Hmm.
overcome. As far as just from like a design perspective, like a visual design perspective, I actually prefer how it looks without having the sub name underneath it. Makes it feel a little bit more unique to
Yeah,
me. And as long as the card itself isn't any different, I'm not bothered by that. But you do bring up a very good point of that being something that's definitely confusing to a new
yeah,
player, especially when you start to look at, non-singleton formats where it's like, well, how many copies of this can I play?
yeah, absolutely.
Can I have 8 Warnog Riders Chaplains in my deck if 4 of them are Will the Wise?
Yeah, I think I think overall as well, like an interesting issue would be we actually got like the full D&D sets, which I think are great. They very much fit the theme of Magic the Gathering.
Right.
And I love seeing Warhammer in cards as well. Like I absolutely adore it. I think it fits perfectly. But what happens if you don't think that? Should Magic make Magic versions of the Warhammer cards, even though I think they fit perfectly in there? Should they make Magic themed versions of all those new exclusive cards?
Honestly, I would lean towards no. I think a big part of that is imagine how big of if they're not already designing it with that in mind, how big of an ask is that?
Yeah,
Like, I mean,
new
look at
art,
like right,
names.
new art, new flavor text,
Hmm.
new, in some cases they might even need to do new names because I mean, Warhammer is a great example here. So like if we look at the differences between the Stranger Things cards, like you have Will the Wise versus Vernog Rider's Chaplain, this card has a completely new name
Hmm.
because the name of the original card would not have been suitable for the setting. So if we're making
Yeah,
changes to make it fit Magic the Gathering's setting, then names are going to have to be changed too, especially with the Warhammer set.
yeah.
One of my favorite things about the Warhammer set is they took really famous and iconic slogans and names of abilities and stuff like that from the tabletop game and all of the lore within and just printed them as cards. Blood for the Blood God. That's a
Hmm.
name that has to be changed. I mean, look at "Let the Galaxy Burn." That is the catchphrase of the heretic Astartes.
Hmm.
I mean, you have "And they shall know no fear." Like all of these things will have to be changed, and
Yeah.
so not in addition to the flavor text and the art as well. And I think that's an enormous ask, especially when we have products like that, like I said, that are either in a full set or effectively a set when it comes to 4 pre-constructed decks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Although I could see people having a problem with it. I don't think it's as big of an issue as something like the Walking Dead cards,
Agreed.
because
Agreed.
again, like there's not a steady supply of those cards either. You either play the Walking Dead or you don't play them at all, and if you don't have Rick, you're at a massive
Right.
disadvantage.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah, with
it's a
the
problem.
Walking Dead and the Stranger Things cards, these are both in Secret Layers, and Secret Layers are part of their marketing and design is that they're intended to be limited.
Fear of
You know, they
missing out
all
and all that.
right, they all capitalize on FOMO, and they all have these short windows where like this is the only time when you can acquire these cards, and odds are we're not going to print more. This did change with the Stranger Things ones, and they obviously did the
hmm
Innistrad reskins of those, which I think was fantastic. And also there is an upside there too, in that for the people who really like the Stranger Things versions, or the people who paid the money for the Stranger Things versions, those still effectively retain their value,
Yeah.
because it's not that those exact cards were just reprinted and now the special stuff that you paid extra on the secret lair for has lost its monetary value, because that's still the only way that you can get that particular version of that card. It's a
hmm
promotional product. So
Yeah, I think overall, I'm not really sure how to feel about secret layers. On one hand, I feel like they're very aggressively priced, and the fear of
yeah,
missing out is very kind of predatory. But also, like, they are great collector's products for people
they
that
they
have the
certainly
money to
are.
spend. Like, I bought my fair share. I bought my fair share of secret
Yeah, I
layers.
when they first started coming out, I bought a couple different like they had one that was just chock full of like dredge stuff, and
Yeah.
of course I got every promotional version of like Golgari Thug that I can manage.
Yeah.
And when they first started doing secret layers, I followed the releases of those pretty religiously, even if I didn't buy every single one of them. I just was excited to see what the next one would be, and I really liked seeing those cool promotional products. But
Oh,
it
yeah.
has reached a point where they have reached such a sort of singularity of releasing so many of these so frequently. I haven't even looked at what a secret layer coming out is in a couple of years now. Like
Oh,
every once in a
man.
while I'll be looking at like a card database and be like, well, what the hell version of this card is this? I don't recognize this art, and then I come to find out it's from some secret layer that was over 18 months ago. And
Yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't feel special
it
anymore.
doesn't. It doesn't, especially when a lot of the designs aren't even that exciting to me anymore.
Yeah. And I think like they still have some real bangers. I bought
Yeah.
recently there was a Junji Ito artwork,
Yes,
and
that one
I
was
I
very
bought the
cool.
shit out of that. That looks
Yeah,
incredible.
for
But
any of you who are not familiar, Junji Ito is a renowned manga artist and author.
it is beautiful.
Really, his artwork is truly iconic in the field of like horror and stuff. He's super cool stuff, and yeah, they did a whole bunch of art inspired by him
Yeah, it
for
is it is beautifully haunting. Like they have
yeah.
like Doomsday and stuff. Oh, it's incredible.
One of my favorite secret layers ever was when they did the Theros promotional arts for all of the gods.
Oh
They were
yeah,
all of the constellation effects and stuff. Those are some of the most beautiful
they're
Magic cards
beautiful.
I've ever seen. I love to look at those.
Yeah.
I didn't get it personally just because I didn't want to spend that much on it, but also like probably wasn't going to play all those cards. So and because that was one of the pretty big drops.
Yeah.
There's 15 cards in it, so
Yeah, yeah, I'm kind of torn. I really wish they would slow down on the releases. I know that they're still putting care into them. Like they have very talented artists and stuff, but I feel like when I'm just getting products shoved down my throat, like it's just buy the product because it's there.
right.
It's not because it's incredible or it caters specifically to my play style or the colors that I play. It's there because they want money, and that feels
Right.
bad.
It does. It feels a lot like a marketing decision or business model based on the business models that are very similar in digital games. However, they're simultaneously while making a business model based on digital business models, but they're also still taking advantage all of the ways that it is a very real very cardboard game.
Mm-hmm.
In that, like, like limited time offerings and stuff like that. We see that all the time with like
Yeah.
promotional skins in games like League of Legends and Smite. Smite does limited time skins all the time. Smite is famous for having just tons of skins for, and
Mm-hmm.
heck, they do Universes Beyond too.
They do. Yeah, they do. Yeah, we got Avatar, TMNT. We
Yeah,
got all kinds of stuff
the
in Smite.
RuneScape.
God, the gnome.
um, indeed, indeed. But so it does feel like they have a lot of. It feels very, very similar to the way that a lot of today's most popular digital pastimes like League of Legends and Fortnite and things like this do a lot of their marketing decisions for stuff like skins and seasonal products and stuff like that. However, there is an inherent markup to all of these prices because it is a physical product. Like
Yeah.
they can actually, whereas there is an entire conversation to be had about digital scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
They actually create real scarcity with these products.
Yeah. It's
Um,
artificially created, but it is there.
but it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, I feel like Wizards of the Coast is also just kind of falling apart in the marketing department. I want to return to a previous topic we had, which was the 30th anniversary. Everyone's favorite
Right.
thing for everyone to complain about, and that will not change. I will continue complaining.
I will complain about it until we reach the 60th anniversary, and then if they that's their listen.
Make up
There's
for
only
it.
one. Yeah, there's only one anniversary as important as the 30th anniversary, and that's the 30th one, right? So
Yeah.
the 31st anniversary, even if they do something big and spectacular that does bring a lot of my goodwill back, it's not going to be worth it until the 60th anniversary because
Yep.
that's the second and only other time
The
that they
30th
will have had it for
anniversary.
another 30 years,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So I have come up with a fun little game here. I want to compare Magic to Yu-Gi-Oh, which is something you were very excited about before we started
Yeah,
recording.
I'm pretty stoked to hear about this. Oh, yeah, you put a big bold text on our pre-discussion document that says "Do not look, Isaac." So that just
Yeah, that
instantly
made you want to
started
click
firing
immediately.
my neurons.
So I don't know how familiar you are with Yu-Gi-Oh.
I have some middling familiarity with
Decently.
Yu-Gi-Oh. Yeah,
Yeah.
I played a little bit of Master Duel in the last 18 months, and when
Yeah.
I was a kid, I actually played pretty regularly. But the game looks a lot different from how it
Yes. Oh
looked
my
in
God.
2004.
Things are
So
wild.
yes,
I just want to clarify for the purposes of this, because I'm going to have you guess the price of a product. For the purposes of this, please keep in mind Yu-Gi-Oh cards are very well known for not retaining their value as well. There are
right.
some very expensive cards, but overall, they lose their value very, very quickly. It's like Pokemon. Like, the cards are $90 for like 30 days, and then they
Mhm.
drop off the side of a cliff and they're 31 cents,
Right.
right? Again, not to say that they're not still valuable, but Yu-Gi-Oh is not quite the monetary collection that
Right. Not as much
Magic
of a
has.
collector's product as much as
Right.
Magic the Gathering is.
So there is an upcoming 25th anniversary for
Okay.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And to celebrate this, they are having a collection pack. This collector set, coming out on 4/19, so almost exactly 1 month from this recording. All of the cards in it are legal, as far as I know. On the website, it says already legal. So
Okay.
all of the cards are like reprints. It contains, this is a pack that contains one pack of Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon, Metal Raiders, Spell Ruler, Pharaoh's Servant, Dark Crisis, Invasion of Chaos. So that's 6 booster packs, all very old booster packs, I want to
Right.
be clear. Those are
Yeah, I
like some of the
recognize a
first
few of these
sets.
names. Yeah.
Yeah. It also includes one ultra rare Obelisk the Tormentor, Slifer the Sky Dragon, the Winged Dragon of Ra, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Dark Magician, and Red Eyes Black Dragon card.
And those are all
So
guaranteed to be in that
those are
product.
all guaranteed. So these are the original Egyptian gods and some of the staples like Blue Eyes, Red
Right.
Eyes, and Dark Magician, right? Again, all very well known cards.
Right.
These are like collector's version of these. And one quarter-century secret rare version of one of the 6 aforementioned cards at random.
That one is random. Okay.
Yes, and that's like the super rare anniversary edition of one of those 6
Right.
cards
Right.
at
Right.
random, right? So, 6 packs, 6 cards, and one card randomly that is like super, super duper rare, awesome cards, right? All very classic stuff from the beginning of Yu-Gi-Oh!
Right.
Kind of similar to what Magic did for their 30th. Once again, Magic the Gathering 30th anniversary, $1,000 for what, 3 booster packs of
Three
15
packs.
cards
Yes,
at
three
random,
packs.
full of proxies that you can't play with. Do you want to take a guess at how much this Yu-Gi-Oh! Collector's Edition set costs?
Can I get like what I would call a hint of like, because I have no idea what the MSRP value of
That's
like
fair.
Yu-Gi-Oh sets and packs and boxes and stuff are at all.
Yeah.
Could you give me any kind of like sort of any kind of scale to base this on?
Okay, let's see. I'm just gonna look up the price of some of these sets, or some of these packs, right? The MSRP of the Legend of Blue Eyes pack is like $5. Metal Raiders, about $5. All of them are about $4.50. Each of
Okay.
these packs are about $4.50.
Okay. And there's a total of 6 packs altogether in
Yeah,
this,
6 packs, 6 cards,
and
one
then one
ultra rare
additional
super
super
card.
promotional card. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let me think here for a second. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that this is probably, so I mean, if we look at it from what the value of those 6 packs are, that's in probably the $30 to $40 range.
Mm.
Like if you bought those, off of eBay or Amazon or whatever. So I would imagine that part is probably going to be priced more than that. Then plus the added promotional value. So I'm gonna say $100 for the whole thing.
Not bad. All right, so solid guess. So, just real quick again, Magic 30th edition, 3 packs, $1,000. Cards you can't play with. Yu-Gi-Oh! Cards you can play with. 6 packs, 6 guaranteed cards, one ultra rare, $32.
Well, hot diggity dang, you know.
$32
That's
for this
truly
entire
insane.
anniversary collection pack. That is absurd.
I would say that
basically
one
original cards.
That one super promotional card probably has more value retention than any particular one of the cards in the entirety of the Magic 30th anniversary set. And you can get it plus a bunch of other stuff for $32.
And you can play with it.
That is truly, and it's
play
a
with
real
these
card, and it's a
cards.
real card. Now, when I say that it has more value retention, this is of course warped by the fact that the 30th anniversary product was $1,000. So nobody's going to sell these cards for the nickels and dimes that I would think that they are actually worth. They're going to be sold for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, because of the amount that people paid for it. So nobody's going to ever let go of those cards for, it would be silly to, buy 45 cards for $1,000 and then sell all 45 of them for $1 each. That's a massive loss, and nobody's that kind of philanthropist for sure. But if they had been more honest about the value of these cards, 100%, at least me as a consumer, as a non-billionaire consumer, I definitely put a lot more value in any single one of these cards than a single one of the proxies from the 30th anniversary set.
I absolutely agree, and this is how you're supposed to do an anniversary.
Absolutely,
$32 for the original
300th of the price of the anniversary set.
Imagine how many Yu-Gi-Oh players or new Yu-Gi-Oh players are going to see this and go, holy shit, that's like the original Yu-Gi-Oh experience I can have again with my friends.
Right.
I can open these packs and get these old cards.
I don't even play Yu-Gi-Oh, and that's exciting to me.
Yeah, I agree. That is absurd. That's what Magic should have been.
This could, in fact, get me to play Yu-Gi-Oh, especially after all the stuff with Magic. I mean, heck, they could probably price it a lot more than this, and then just do a press release of being like, they could just
we're not Wizards of the Coast.
Right, exactly, and then people would still pay, $300 for this.
They'd be cheering in the streets.
Yeah, for real.
Truly. Now again, I want to clarify, neither of us are like super Yu-Gi-Oh players. We've both played it.
No, I don't own any cards
recently. But like I just looking at the contents and the price, I would pay double this.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, not a Yu-Gi-Oh player. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would pay $60 for
For
like a
sure. I
collector's
mean, if we
edition
look
of
at
all this.
this,
Good
if
lord.
if we look at this in a world of like, so let me create, let me weave a tapestry for you
Hmm.
of what a similar product would look like under the umbrella of Magic the
Yeah,
Gathering,
from
right?
Magic. Yeah.
So like, let's say some like old, or some game defining old sets. Let's say so we've got Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, and Urza's Destiny.
Hmm.
For reference, that not only is this like a this is where I've always said personally that a lot of the most popular and most retentive and most exciting and like IP defining cards from the history of Magic have ever come
Oh, yo,
from.
you got like the Urza's lands.
Yes, we've got the Urza's Lands, we've got Rhystic Study is in this
Gaia's
block. We've
Cradle.
got Gaia's Cradle. All of those, that entire cycle of lands was from this Survival of the Fittest.
Hmm.
All of these things, like tons of these cards to this day still see play, and is all really OG stuff from the
Yeah.
Magic universe.
Me going on EDH Rec and seeing Gilded Drake in every blue commander deck ever
Right,
created.
right. And then we've got another good example of that would be like the Onslaught block. So for we'll say
Yeah.
that the pick for 6 packs is like Urza's Destiny, Urza's Saga, Urza's Legacy, then Onslaught, Legions, and Scourge. That's six
Hmm.
packs. Those are all very OG. They came out close to the same time. Very
Very
exciting
well
sets.
renowned.
Yes,
Yeah.
these are all. There's a lot of weight that comes with the names of these sets. These are a lot of the. I mean, I wasn't playing it at this time. I was too young. But for a lot of the kind of original Magic players, this is kind of where the real meat of the game was back in the day. So we've got those products. Then maybe, I mean, heck, my first knee jerk reaction for like if we're filling a lot of those 6 promotional cards,
Hmm.
my first thought is to say like the cycle of 5 lands like Tolarian Academy, Gaia's Cradle,
Oh, that would be
Sheevan
insane.
Gorge. The thing that's crazy about that though is those cards already have so much value
Yeah.
that you can't
You
really
can't
even
just give them
call that.
out.
Let's pretend that we live in a world where the reserve list doesn't exist, and then we'll say that
Yeah.
instead of having the 6 promotional cards, it's 5, and it's that cycle of 5 lands. So we've got a Gaia's Cradle, Sarah Sanctum, Tolarian Academy, Sheevan Gorge, and Phyrexian Tower. Sheevan Gorge
Hmm.
and Phyrexian Tower, for the record, are dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Well, Sheevan Gorge is dirt cheap.
Yeah. Sheevan Gorge
Phyrexian
is
Tower
dirt
is
cheap.
like affordable, but still kind of
Somewhat cheap.
expensive. Yeah, because it's a good
Uh,
land. Um,
you could also go something like the Lorwyn 5 walkers, like the
yeah,
original
could
5. But
absolutely do that.
even those are expensive. Jace the Mind Sculptor
Yeah.
dropped in price a lot, but still very expensive.
Well, Mind Sculptor wasn't from the original Lorwyn.
Oh, that wasn't
Yes,
Lorwyn. What
all of
was
the
Lorwyn?
Lorwyn Planeswalkers were just the card under their whole name. So we had Liliana Vess, Jace
Oh, that's
Bellerin,
right. Yeah, I'm thinking
Ajani
of the wrong one.
Goldmane, yeah, Chandra Nalar, and Garruk Wildspeaker.
Yeah.
Yeah, those were just full names, full government names. They come with their social security number at the bottom, the whole deal.
That's their social security number is their loyalty.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. And then maybe one promotional version of either those lands or those planeswalkers. We'll pretend that we live in a world where the reserve list doesn't exist.
Yeah.
If I looked at that, just knowing like the contents of those sets and stuff like that, and the excitement that comes with them, not only would I gladly pay $100 or more,
Hmm.
Wizards would probably market it at least 200, right? Like even in a
Yeah.
world outside of the reserve list. And I among other people would probably pay that. I don't know if I would buy it for 200 or more dollars. Lots of people would though.
I would probably buy it for around like 150 because that's like booster box price.
Right.
I definitely agree that many more people would buy it for 200 for
Yeah,
sure.
absolutely. And we're looking at an equivalent product for $32
Yeah, from
from
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, that's insane. It's Wizards of the Coast. I think is losing touch with the player
Yeah,
base
so much
overall. I
so, in
think.
fact, that there was a recent stock report where actually a lot of
Hmm.
financial advisors have recommended to sell or not, stop
Slow
buy.
down product.
Yeah, well, not only that, they've recommended to people involved in the stock trade to either sell their stocks in Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, or to stop buying them entirely, just because the exact verbiage that they use is for a lack of customer goodwill.
Mm-hmm.
It has
Yeah,
become such a
people are
big
not happy.
problem. Yeah, it has become such a big problem that it is quite literally affecting their finance at a global level.
And I honestly think it should. Like, we need to show Wizards of the Coast that we won't stand for like treatment like this. It's
Yeah,
been miserable these last few months.
for true, for true.
So, moving on, kind of building on that, how would Magic recover their fan base at this point? How do they recover all that goodwill they lost?
It's tough to say. So something to look at is there, there's a few ways to go about it, but I think one of the most important questions to ask is that, because even with all of this loss of customer goodwill, Magic the Gathering has a very loyal following.
Mm-hmm.
The most common way that people react to stuff like this is that they get very angry about it and maintain a simmering rage about it, and then continue to play Magic the Gathering.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Like I still play Magic on a weekly basis. I spend far less on their products than I used to, because I am simply not willing to anymore. But I still play the game, as do many other people with similar feelings. So the
Yeah.
first question that is begged, I would say, would be, when you have that loss of customer retention and customer goodwill at a global level, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to take a step back and try and retain the customer goodwill? Or are you going to step further into the path that you're already on in order to try and make up the loss of stock value that you've already had?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Are you going to market even more aggressively and try to just squeeze more money out of the less people that you've retained? Or are you going to take a step back and give more respect to your customers and try and retain a higher number of loyal fans versus a smaller number of fans that are going to pay you more?
Alternative third option is just continue as you are and print return to Lorwyn and Shadowmoor, and everyone and their moms will come flocking back to Magic
Yes,
instantly.
yeah, bring back Kithkin. This is what everyone
yeah.
wants to see.
True. No, I think that I think that those are two very, very. I think those are the two distinct options. The illusion of free choice.
Yeah.
But I feel like just the correct answer, just like the objectively correct answer, is try to appeal to your fan base again. I feel like if they
Absolutely.
recover goodwill, the money will come back. More people will start playing again.
100%.
Yeah.
It's truly Magic the Gathering is not, it's becoming famously more and more expensive to play. However,
Mm-hmm.
historically speaking, it has never been a situation of it's an expensive hobby. It's a manageably priced hobby that people willingly spend
Mm-hmm.
oodles of money on.
Because we love the game.
Absolutely, and especially casual players, which is one of the
Yeah.
big reasons that I think Commander has become such a big forefront of the brand in the modern day, is because a Commander, it's like the flagship of casual play for the game,
Mm-hmm.
and Commander players are the ones dumping hundreds or thousands of dollars on like foils and stuff to just have a fully, people love their bling, right?
Yeah, just bling out your deck. Yeah.
And so, just appealing to that sensibility is, I mean, it's not like they've ever not made enough money from Magic. It's simply out of a sort of hubris of, we think we can make more.
Yeah, for sure. Trying to milk those deep pockets
Right.
until the players finally say no, we've had
They're
enough.
not they're not so deep as one might think.
No, 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 indeed. I don't think that this is going to ruin Magic. The worst case scenario is that it gets to the point where everyone just has had enough, right? Everyone stands up, they're like, all right, we're done until you fix it. Wizards of the Coast loses a bunch of money, and then they try to regain goodwill and they start doing things right again.
Right.
I really think it's a matter of time. They will either start doing the right thing now and hopefully recover quickly and continue making money and make more, or they will push it to the limit, get pushback, and then fall really far and have to
Right.
recover. But I think eventually it will come around. Like, it can't stay like this. It
Absolutely, it's
physically
not
cannot.
sustainable. If it
No.
stays like this, then the game will die.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Or,
I
or
don't
it'll
think
become
Wizards of
something
the
entirely
Coast.
different, in which that no one plays it anymore and is purely like antiques and a collector's product only.
Yeah. I also think a big part of like this money issue is that we don't need Wizards of the Coast. This is
No, we
something a lot of
absolutely don't.
people have talked about. we can just proxy cards.
I am
We don't have to
100%
buy.
on board for proxies. I
Yeah.
evangelize it every single day. I'm in a very unique situation for me currently in that a close friend of mine, Will, has very recently gotten
Mm.
into Magic the Gathering, and I haven't seen
Oh.
someone begin playing the game for like 8 years at least.
Yeah.
And so me and one of my roommates have been teaching him. He's been having a very good time. He loves the game. He's
That's
already
good.
getting to a point where he's like, I want to build every commander ever.
Yeah.
And so that's very fun, but it's been very interesting to kind of watch how he interacts with the more brand and corporate side of things, because all three of us follow the new releases and stuff pretty closely, and his reactions and his relationship with it have been very interesting to watch. A great example of this is this was actually another thing we were going to discuss. So if we want to pivot into this for a minute here, in the upcoming Tales of Middle Earth set,
Mhm.
there are a good number of very promotional products that are being included in the collector's
Yes.
boosters. So firstly, there are a number of First of all, it's a something that we call a serialized promotional card. That they started doing this in the Brothers War. They had some stuff like Wormcoil Engine, where they had like special blueprint promotional arts and stuff like that. That there were only a few hundred of these would be printed, and each one has a serial number on it to tell you which one you have.
Mhm.
They're doing this again in Tales of Middle Earth with a few versions of Soul Ring, in that there are 300 Soul Rings to represent the three elves with their rings that were forged by Sauron, then 700 for the dwarves representing their 7 rings, and then 900 Soul Rings with all three having unique different arts
For the
to
mortal men who are doomed to
Yes,
die.
indeed, for the mortal men doomed to die. And then above all of that, there is the One Ring, of which there
Mhm.
is exactly one of these serialized promotional cards. I was offended by this.
Yeah.
Will looked at this and went, "That's really cool." As
Really?
as well as I think he should, because if they had made this decision a number of years ago, when like I was at my height with playing Magic and spending on Magic and stuff like that, I would have been very excited by this too. I think the thing that informed my reaction to this is that I have basically become so disillusioned with the business model and with the repeated marketing decisions of Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, that seeing this reads to me as more like, here is a reason for you to spend way more money on this set and the collector's
Yeah.
boosters than you were going to. Whereas to Will, who isn't really thinking about that aspect of it, looks at it and goes, "That's the One Ring. That's really cool." And I think that's true, and I think he's right to think that. It's just sad to me that I and many other people aren't going to think that, and I think that is directly tied to that customer goodwill that has been burned up over the last few years.
Wow, that is enlightening, honestly. The
Exactly,
just the
yeah.
difference in thought, because I'm on the exact same page as you. This is like an excuse for you to gamble more, to buy more. But I do agree that I really wish that I could see it like he does. I wish I could be excited for this, but
Right.
instead I just think it's fucking scummy.
Agreed. 100% agreed.
Wow. Oh man, that's so fascinating. Kind of building upon that, like, would it have been better if this had happened years ago? If this serialized bit started from the beginning of Magic, I don't think it would be seen as greedy at all. It's
I would
just a
agree.
part of the
I
game.
think it would be seen purely as exciting and promotional,
Yeah.
because when you look at games like this, we largely look at them as trading card games, but another definite and exact term for what these games are is collectible card games. They're
Mhm.
collectible. They are collectible from their very inception as a product. Starts all the way back with like baseball cards, which have been around for many decades, right? These were, I mean, with the baseball cards, they're purely collectible and tradable. It had nothing to do with any
Yeah.
rule mechanics or a game that you played with them. It was, oh, look, I have Babe Ruth. Oh,
Yeah.
but you have Jackie Robinson? That's so cool. With card games and hobbies like this, they took that and then gave you something to do with those cards that you have, which I think adds so much fun and excitement to the hobby. I've never been really interested in in
I
collectible card
agree.
games that are only collectible, and that's why I love games like Magic so much. And but that sensibility of the collectability of any particular item or product, and the sort of, because don't get me wrong, don't ever get this twisted. Cool cards, valuable cards, promotional cards always have status attached to them. The simply
Hmm.
something as simple as the price of a card creates status in the larger community of Magic the Gathering players in a way that is a little bit weird when you step back and start to think about it. I have caught myself placing more weight on a card because of the monetary value of it in contrast to the mechanical value of it. There are cards that I have looked at and gone,
Yeah,
that's a
absolutely.
really powerful card, and then passed up because I just like didn't even think about it
There's
because it was only
Sixth
like a,
Sense.
right, exactly. And I look at it and go, that's a really strong card, and then I just move on. Whereas in some cases, that exact same card a year later, I still am able to identify it as a very powerful card, but it actually gives me pause, and I think about, should I maybe be playing this card because I've seen that the price has gone up to $50.
Yeah. That's like Bosaiju, who endures the legendary land
Oh,
from Kamigawa.
absolutely.
I looked at that card when it was spoiled, and there were pre-orders for it on Card Kingdom for like $3. And I was like, wow, that's a crazy card. That's gonna be a staple. And then I
Yeah,
left the page, and within the week, pre-orders had gone up to $50. And I'm like,
yeah.
I should have fucking ordered 20 of them. God damn it.
Exactly. Yeah, and there is definitely status and weight that comes with something as simple as the price of a card. So when you
Mm-hmm.
start to introduce other aspects of it that are even more weighty and have that much more oomph to them to a consumer than just the price, when you, like, for example, I don't necessarily love the visual design of how the little serial number looks, but what it
Yeah.
means certainly
Oh yeah.
speaks to those sensibilities.
Absolutely. And I do think that it has like fantastic art overall as well. The fact
Absolutely.
that there's only one card with art like that, oh man, yeah. It is money. It is status indeed. Whoever pulls the
Absolutely.
one ring is going to be internet famous forever. For
This is
literally
true.
ever.
This is absolutely true.
That is
I'm
the guy that pulled the one ring.
indeed, so to the very deepest bowels of my being, I only hope that it is like a 12-year-old who got a collector's
Plays
box
on the
from his
table.
mom for Christmas. I really hope that's who gets the one ring.
Yeah, and he, he,
It's
he
not
plays with it
likely.
on a crushed soda stained
Yes.
tabletop. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I so hope that that is the type of person that acquires this card. It feels like such a Charlie, kind of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory kind of situation. Unfortunately, I suspect it will probably be some kind of nameless entity
Hmm.
that buys many hundreds of collector boxes in order to just acquire this and sell it for an extremely high price.
Yeah, I
Is what
agree.
I suspect will happen. We shall see. I suppose we shall see.
Indeed, indeed. But moving forward, do you think that we're gonna see more stuff like this? Obviously, serialized cards have continued since Brothers War, and I think that they're mildly successful. And I don't really have a problem with them, besides like the one of one, like we talked about.
Right.
But do you think that we're going to see more like this? Are we going to get one of ones of like planeswalkers in a future set? Are we going to get one of ones of basic lands with special art?
I not only do I hope that we won't, I suspect that we will not.
I agree.
I think a big part of that is, I mean, it feels like such a gimme for the One Ring, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the
It makes
entire
sense.
the entire narrative weight of the One Ring is that it is the only one. Right. It does feel like it makes sense. Like I said, Will, who's only been playing Magic for a month or two, looked at it and was mystified by how cool that was.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think it would have meant anything to him at all if it was like a worm coil engine.
Yeah, that's completely fair.
I certainly hope that they don't do this more, not only out of a finance perspective, but because I think it actually cheapens the one time where it feels like it was fair of them to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm not fond of this marketing decision to do this,
But it is
mainly
cool.
because, but it is cool. I do have to give them a little kudos,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm probably still going to buy some of the product.
Hmm.
Right? I'm not gonna go dumping a ton of money on it, but I'm probably still gonna buy some of this product.
Yeah, that is 100% completely fair. And I also think that this is a fantastic opportunity to get new people into Magic. Like Lord of the Rings is such a big
Absolutely.
IP, right?
In
Like,
fact, I think that's the probably the biggest strength of the universes beyond product conception.
mhm.
Uh, like I mentioned before, my friend and roommate Will, the thing that got him into the game originally at all was the Warhammer 40K product.
Oh yeah,
Because he
absolutely.
loves Warhammer, and when I told him that that was being tied into Magic, he was like, "Wait, really?" And then he started to look into that a little bit. I bought all four of the pre-cons. We played it at the
Mhm.
kitchen table, so he's like, "Yeah, this is kind of fun." And then I started showing him, "Well, look at this card." He goes, "Hey, that's pretty cool." And that card was not from Warhammer, and now the hooks are in.
Yep, yep. And now you got it. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
absolutely. And I think this also partially presents an issue though, because if the Lord of the Rings set is massively successful, right? If it draws in a bunch of new players, will Wizards of the Coast turn a blind eye to all the problems they've had recently? They see their sales spike again and they're like, "Oh, well, the community must be fine. The investors must be fine," even though everything is very much not okay behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah, so I think not only does a big influx of new players like that present Hasbro with more responsibility, like they need to be
Mhm.
more responsible with the stuff that they're doing because of all of the new players, not only does it mean that I think they need to do that, I think that they will in fact do the opposite
Yeah.
because new players don't know what they're getting into. When a new player looks at, like, for example, if we look at the price of the collector's box for Tales of Middle Earth, the collector's box here is $440 is what it's being
Yeah.
sold for on Amazon at the moment. If we look at a set that is also upcoming, got lots of hype behind it, March of the Machine, a collector's box for that is $273.
Mhm.
What's the big difference here? Only one of these babies got a chance of pulling the one ring, okay? So the only one of these sets has a big whammy that's gonna look at you as a player and go, you should buy more of these, and it's almost twice as much money.
Yeah.
So a new player doesn't look at these numbers and necessarily understand what they mean, right? They don't understand exactly the value, the monetary value of everything that they're getting into. In fact, I will say, in reference to my friend Will again, he has been a bit blindsided a few times by when we're playing game stuff, and he's like, "Oh, well, X, Y, or Z card is super cool. I want to get one, or I want to build X, Y, or Z deck." And then he looks at how much it's going to cost.
It's
He
like,
is
"Oh
startled by
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I want to build the Dragon. Oh, it's $80. Like,
Sorry, bud.
yeah, just kidding. I guess I don't want to build Dragon. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think that proxies of course solve that solution entirely as long as everyone at the table
yep,
is okay with stuff like that. Like
right.
I know what one of our other friends, Scott, recently proxied like an Dragon commander deck, and like I feel fine about that. Everyone is on the
Absolutely.
same page that hey, this deck is very, very powerful. It's probably gonna kick our asses. Play your best deck against it and have fun, right? Like
Right.
that's okay.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual price of those cards, it's gonna take people by surprise, I think. And the worst part is that if they really want to get into it, if they have people to play with that are really hardcore fans of the game who have played for years, they're gonna feel an obligation to build better decks to get deeper into it, and
Right.
they might not know how to save money when it comes to building decks
Right.
with proxies or cheaper versions of the cards, and that makes them money every time. That makes Wizards of the
Right.
Coast money.
And that brings up a very interesting concept of how important is what I'm going to call the sort of social contract between the designers and the developers of these cards and the people that play with them. Because when we look at formats, especially casual formats like Commander, as the years have gone on, more and more people share their decks, their deck lists online. And, I mean, I remember when I first started playing, there was a big controversy about like, oh, Oh man, net
Yeah,
decking,
net
which
deckers. Yeah.
people might not even know that what that terminology means these days because it's so commonplace, but essentially it just means taking ideas for your deck from other people who play that deck on the internet. Because it's like, oh, you didn't even brew that yourself? Come on, man. EDH Rec is a titan, and it's awesome,
Yeah,
by
and
the
it's
way. It's a
incredible.
fantastic utility, especially to new players. However, as we have more and more of these decks and these lists and these formats being shared amongst people, it does have a tendency to quote unquote solve those formats, especially the more casual ones.
Hmm.
Now, when we look at that and we look at the sort of power creep that's been happening over the last few years, the line of what cards are playable has continually moved up,
Hmm.
which it has never moved this quickly before. In fact, I remember a time when I started playing in Magic 2014, around like the Ravnica block standard era. And I remember a time a few years after that when Cons of Tarkir came out. Uh,
And no one ran
power,
those.
power crept backwards.
Yeah,
All right. That
Cons
was
of
one of
Tarkir
the
was bad.
Cons of Tarkir was one of the least powerful sets I've ever seen to date. There were like 3 good cards in the entire block, and all of them were Ugin.
True.
So when you look at every set has more cards that serve the purpose of a previous card, but only better, right? And that previous card was already a staple being run in 95% of people's decks, and you can see that because of all of the data available to you online. There is no mechanical reason not to play this new card, and Wizards of the Coast is the one peddling it to you, right? They're the one saying, we have decided that your card is not good enough anymore,
Yeah.
right? They're the
Yeah.
one saying, here is a better alternative. You can play it, or you can stick with the cheaper version. What are you going to do, and what is the format going to do around you? Because the obvious argument against this is, well, you don't have to use the staples. You don't have to use the more expensive options. This is true, but it is very much a situation of, no, it is not mandatory in the like most definitive sense of the word. When you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
It's magic cards aren't on there.
magic cards aren't on them, and certainly the best magic cards aren't on there. But it's an inherently competitive game, right? Of course, people want to and feel like they have to
Hmm.
keep up with their peers and the rest of the format. Let's use like a sport as an example. What if metal bats were suddenly legalized in professional baseball, which they're
Hmm.
not for very good reason, because you can hit a baseball oodles further with a metal bat, okay? No, it would not be mandatory for every one of those players to take the metal bat over the wooden
But
one.
everyone would.
They're all
Yeah.
going to, because you're going to hit the ball out of the stadium every swing,
And
right?
guess what? The price of metal bats goes up.
It does, exactly. And so this is what's happening with Magic cards. Where does the buck stop,
Yeah.
right? What is the expectation for players?
That's a really hard thing to do too, because you can't consistently power creep backwards. Cons of Tarkir, like it happens every once in a while. Cons of Tarkir crept backwards. Ikoria, some of the cards, not the commander cards. Holy
Yeah.
shit, not the commander cards. We got Fierce Guardianship. My god. But like for the most part, I would call Ikoria, aside from commanders and companions, overall it was a lower power set.
I
Like
would agree.
it's
Yeah.
okay to do it sometimes, but if you consistently do it multiple times in a row, that's also how you lose player interest. If new
It is.
interesting cards that are strong aren't coming out, there's no point in playing, right? Or there's no need to keep up with, or like buy new product.
Right. Yeah, and I can tell you that from personal experience. Cons of Tarkir, and even more so Fate Reforged, the second set in that
Hmm.
block, was like famously not a very exciting set. I didn't buy much of it, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you can bet your ass I was out there buying packs and boxes and stuff of Theros, which was before. Cons of Tarkir, I mean, I bought a fair amount of cons because that was the first time in a long time we had seen wedge color combinations, and I
Hmm.
was just getting into Commander, and I love to play 3 colors. And so that was really exciting to me. It was like a whole new world of color identity
Yeah.
possibilities. But once that magic wore off, of like, oh, I've seen what Narset can do.
Yeah, yeah,
I've seen how many turns you can take.
yeah.
And then I started looking more at the reality of like what was happening with these cards. I, you know, I lost some interest, and that's unfortunate because it's that loss of interest from the player base that fuels the extremely financially backed marketing decisions and financially inspired stuff where like it's all about squeezing as much money out of the player base. That's what inspires that because they see what happens because of that loss of interest. People do buy less product.
Yeah, it's a feedback loop, and I don't think there's
Yeah.
any like perfect solution to
There is
it.
no perfect solution.
Yeah.
The best we can do is an honor system from Hasbro, essentially,
Yep.
of like they have to be able to trust the player base of like, we're not going anywhere. No, we didn't buy as much Fate Reforged as we did Journey into Nyx, but we're gonna stick around. We're gonna keep buying your product.
We're gonna buy up the next set that makes Manifest actually good. I promise, guys. I can't wait for Manifest to be a good mechanic. God, I love Whisperwood Elemental so much.
Ah,
God,
man.
I love that card.
I'm here for the Death Mist Raptor, baby.
But yeah, it's definitely a problem, and again, it's not something that can be easily solved. I
No,
agree
it's
that
not.
like consumer loyalty is the basically the best shot we have. But even then, like even if we say, hey, we're still gonna be here, they're gonna lose money printing that set, so they won't. They won't print as many powered down sets because it will lose them money.
Right.
It's a very difficult thing to balance out.
I think there are a couple small things that I would like to touch on kind of a lighter note.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a little bit more of a uh, from a purely excited consumer's perspective. Like we've talked about tons over the course of this episode, the Tales of Middle Earth set is upcoming, and as many times as I've narrowed my eyes at Hasbro and as many criticisms I have for a lot of their business model lately, I tell you what, I sure am excited about this dang Lord of the Rings set.
Yeah, I'm also very excited to return to Ixalan afterwards as
Oh
well. I am
boy, I
so
tell you.
excited.
Yeah, you know what? I'm so stoked to see because Ixalan was the first time in a long time that they built a set with tribal mechanics being the central theme.
Yes.
Oh my god, do I love tribal mechanics as a central theme.
I also just love like the Vampire Inquisition, like the black white
Yes. So
vampires on
cool.
Ixalan. They're my favorite vampires.
Absolutely.
Oh
They
my
are so
god.
sweet. And so something I've been wondering a lot is so the set is called Lost Caverns of
Yeah.
Ixalan, right? So it
Yes.
kind of implies a new part of Ixalan is not necessarily touched on before is being explored. What do you think's going on there? Like, do you think we're going to see from more narrative perspective what's going on there, and then from a more mechanical perspective, do you think we're going to see more of the same tribal themes? And if so, do you think we're going to see more of the same tribes or new stuff being introduced?
I think that we'll see a little bit of everything. So previously on Ixalan, the three big tribes, right, were dinosaurs, vampires, merfolk. Right,
Right.
those were the three big ones. I think adding a fourth tribe, like a lost hidden tribe, Ixalan, interestingly, has like almost no humans. There are
Right.
very, very few humans. I think
Right.
like an underground society of humans would be interesting, but I hope that's not where they go. I hope that it's something different, like zombies or something hiding under the earth. Maybe
That would be cool.
worms or something. Like a
Ooh, that could be
second
exciting.
that there's like
Perhaps the
dragons, and then there's like sorry, there's more there's dinosaurs, and then there's like more intelligent worms that like have been hiding and planning or something like that.
listen to this. How about this?
Hmm.
Atogs finally
Oh
making
my
their
god,
return.
I would
Ixalan
love
is
a
their home
Togs.
plane. Turns out some kind of interaction with the Eldrazi and the Blind Eternities shunted them to Dominaria many, many centuries ago. But Ixalan is where they're from. We've uncovered them,
Oh my god,
bringing Atogs back at
you
last.
could get like underground togs as well, like the crystal tog or something that like eats lands or something. Oh,
How
that'd
about
be
this?
so
How about this?
cool.
Tribal Atogs, okay? Vampire
Yeah, yeah.
Atog. Sacrifice a
Oh,
vampire gets +2/+2,
oh, that would be
okay?
so cool. Like they eat the
Dino
other
Tog!
tribes. Oh my god, that would be so cool. Oh my god, that's not gonna happen.
It
There's
will
no
not.
chance.
It certainly will not.
But I think a fourth tribe is very likely, and I think a lot of the set's focus will be trying to gain knowledge, right? So
I
previously
think
it
so.
was trying to take over land, right? Like the
Right.
dinosaurs were on the land, the merfolk were in like the rivers and sea, and the vampires were trying to take it over. That was
Right.
kind of Ixalan. I feel like the Lost Caverns, entirely new area. All three tribes are going to be trying to
Right.
get to it, like
I would
underground lakes and seas and
I
stuff.
would agree with that because
Yeah.
I mean there's a huge narrative hinge in Ixalan, not only around the story of that what's happening on that plane, but of the greater story of Magic the Gathering of the Immortal Sun.
Yeah.
Everyone in this entire world is all fighting a pitched battle of the Immortal Sun. Oh, there is a fourth tribe, pirates.
Mm. Yeah, duh. Obviously.
There was a
Yeah,
fourth
all right.
tribe, so
Fifth
we need a
tribe.
fifth,
We need a fifth
a fifth
tribe.
tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah, so everyone's fighting over the Immortal Sun. That's long gone. That's dealt with now. That whole
Yeah, that's
deal
it. It's
was
not even on the plane.
no, that was carried over into the story of War of the Spark and
Hmm.
Nicol Bolas and all of that stuff. Immortal Sun's not even on the plane anymore. I don't actually know what's been going on in the meantime with these tribes. I don't know. I don't know if they've
I
discussed that in
don't
the
think
story
they
at all.
have discussed it. No,
But
that's not true. Briefly in the recent chapters of March of the Machine, we get brief glances at Ixalan,
that's right,
like some of the
Mavrin and
dinosaur
Galta,
gods. Yeah.
right, and also I know Itali had been completed. I believe.
Yes.
Spoilers,
Yes.
spoilers for anybody listening.
Nah, well, you'll see the cards soon
It's,
enough.
see, I'm no longer to blame because I said spoilers after I spoiled it. So
True. No, yeah, that makes it okay.
yeah,
I do. I would love to see like more of the ancient kind of parts of Ixalan,
yeah,
right? Like it's Lost Caverns. Obviously, there's going to be ancient stuff, but the big part of Ixalan is a lot of the stuff. Nobody has any idea what's going on. Like Hadana's
right,
Climb, that entire card is like this merfolk goes into a mysterious temple, communes with a god, comes back
right.
out, the land is transformed, it becomes something powerful. Like,
From the very start of the set, there's a huge focus on adventure and exploration. I mean,
yeah,
explore is literally a
it
mechanic
is. It's a
in this
very
set.
fun mechanic too. I hope it comes
It
back.
is.
I love
I think
explore.
that we will see a not only do I think that we will see a return to the explore mechanic, I think that we will see a pre-constructed deck built around it.
I love Explore. One of my favorite cards is the green elemental that explores. I forgot what it is.
Oh, is it the one where you gain life from
No, it gets
elementals
+1/+1
dying?
counters on it whenever you
Gotcha.
explore. I can't remember.
Ixalan was one of the brief times that I was playing Standard, and boy, I tell you what, I can't get enough of a Jade Light Ranger.
Oh, yeah, Wild Growth Walker. You're actually correct. It gets a whenever a creature you control explores, it gets a +1/+1 counter on it, and you gain 3 life. We both just
Excellent.
remembered separate parts of it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that card. So I'm so excited to return to Ixalan. Ixalan was I got into Magic roughly around the 2015 core set, but I played very, very casually, like literally kitchen table decks
Yep.
thrown together with draft chaff. Ixalan was one of the first sets I got really into deck building for, like when I started to really appreciate the game.
Yeah.
So I am very excited to come back to it because I have a lot of very good memories of cards like
Me
from
too.
that set. So like Elenda, the Dusk Rose, one of my favorite commanders of all time. I
Indeed.
love that card. Yeah, that is a quite a lot more hopeful. I really hope that this is that
Yeah.
these next couple
I've got-
sets are good.
Yeah, and I've got big excitement about Lost Caverns of Ixalan, like we mentioned, Tales of Middle Earth. Not only that,
Mhm.
we're going to be returning to Eldraine soon too.
Yes,
The pit stop of the plains.
it
So
it really is.
very excited to hear about that. Is there anything else that we were wanting to discuss for this episode, Mr. Mason?
I think that I am good. I think we've ended on a more chipper note. We've discussed a lot of issues, but in the end, we are still dedicated and excited.
A fan's a fan,
Yeah,
no
a
matter
fan
how you
is a
slice it.
fan. Indeed.
Fan's a fan.
And I may not spend $1,000 on proxies, but I will buy an Explorer centered precon for Lost
Exactly.
Caverns of Ixalan.
That is exactly the thing. Yep.
I think that is about all for this episode. Thank you so much for coming on again. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Everybody, thanks for listening back at home or work or wherever you happen to be at this
On
particular moment in
Car
time.
drive to pick up your Lost Caverns of Ixalan precons.
I certainly hope so.
I hope I'll be listening to this on the way there. And regretting them not printing an Explore centered one. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, thank you all so much for listening, and as always, we'll see you next time. And that brings us to the end of the
We did
episode.
it.
We did
We did a
it.
podcast.
Yay.